What's going on, guys? This is your BLACKbusterCritic, and today my avatar is going to be Reggie Mantle, the original douchebag and the original dick from the Archie comics. Today I have yet another commentary that is full of fail, misinformation, and is completely illogical. This one was done by TheLeetCasualGamer, and he did a commentary on my video directed towards the Mass Effect, EA, and Capcom fanboys. But let's not forget, everyone, that this commentary that I'm about to redo was actually on my YouTube channel. It was a Ustream video that I had done randomly. You guys know how the Ustreams are. People present me with things, I talk about it. And in that particular Ustream, I did a commentary on Gligar's video and on this guy's video, but for some strange reason, it got flagged down for harassment and bullying. Well, anyway, this is going to be the remake, and you can still watch the original one, which includes Shokyo as well, on my Ustream channel. So let's go ahead and get started and see if he did as well as his friends did.
Now, I'm going to be fully honest with you. I've given up on Capcom ever since I've gotten Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but this is just pathetic. Probably going to receive a lot of hate for this, and you'll see why in a second. But I don't really give a shit. Aw, look, a nature scene. Wait a sec, I can't see you.
Mass Effect 3 and BioWare and EA fanboys.
Now, I would ask him to define fanboy, but we'll get to that later.
Well, if you actually watched my whole video and actually listened to everything that I've said, you would discover that through the entirety of the video, I'm defining exactly who I'm speaking to. I tell you exactly from what companies they support. I tell you the things that they've said and the things that they've done. I'm being very specific, but it's throughout the entire video. And he fails to realize that because, as you guys can see earlier, he's more worried about my background and whether or not he can see me instead of actually hearing what I'm saying. But he says we're going to cover this later, so later on we're going to see exactly what he has to say. And let me tell you guys right now, what he defines that I say a fanboy is has nothing to do with what I'm talking about in the video. You two groups are the cancer that is killing gaming. Our gaming. Not your gaming, because you fools aren't real gamers.
So basically his logic.
Yeah, guys, you heard it here first. Even though my logic is explained throughout the entire video, he takes the first 22 seconds of my video to make a point about my logic. And not only is it wrong, but it shows that he didn't even watch my video to begin with.
So basically his logic. Buying a game and playing it casually doesn't make you a gamer. But not buying a game and ranting about it makes you a gamer. Oh, what?
Okay, first of all, don't do that again. It's funny when other people do it because they can emote with their voice and their voices are dynamic. You, on the other hand, sound like daddy just came home and pressed his dick to your rosebud while you're recording the commentary. And just like I told you guys, what he says my logic is completely irrelevant and unrelated to what I'm talking about in the video. Capcom and EA and BioWare have been exposed for all the wrong things that they have done, but you know what you idiots do? You know what you do? You defend them!
So fanboys are basically people who defend games for no reason. I can agree with that, and I'll give them that.
Why are you agreeing to a point that I didn't even make? I didn't say anything about the games. I'm talking about how these companies are getting caught in lies and being exposed for the wrong things they do, and the fanboys still support and defend the companies. I'm talking about BioWare, EA, and Capcom.
But I will say this. Do you know what you're doing? You're provoking them. Now, there's a lot more problems with this, but keep this in mind about the provoking because it will have a huge impact on the reasons why this video should not exist.
You guys know what we're going to do. We're going to put those points in the corner and wait for him to prove them later. Caught in lies, even when EA and BioWare have been caught in lies and have been proven to cheat the gamers, you fools stick up for them. And you know what's more? You still buy their games.
And this is what kills your logic entirely.
Remember that we've proven that he failed to realize what my logic is. But he didn't stop there. He then presented a piece of logic that came from his own ignorance.
You say that these people start off by saying, I'm not defending the company, And now you're defining a fanboy as someone who would get the game because they wanted it on their own free will.
What you fail to realize is that that statement, "I'm not defending the company, but," is said by those who are fully aware of the problems, of the lies, of the bad business practices, and of the cheating that these companies do to gamers. Yet they still support them. And that's why they make that statement. I call that cushion. Comment cushion. That's like as a kid, when you know you did something bad, or you're about to say something bad, or you're about to do something bad, you put cushion in your pants because you know you're about to get a spanking, because you are fully aware that what you're about to do, what you're about to say is wrong. And you really fail to realize that it's not about whether or not they enjoy the game or not. It's about putting money in those companies' pockets when they don't have gaming and gamers in their best interest. What these companies do is harm gaming, and if you're a person that supports these companies, you are taking part in the destruction of our gaming.
And then when you provoke them, they just explain that they enjoy it. People naturally defend themselves when people talk shit about them. Anger is incredibly natural. It simply depends on the person and how far they take it. I mean, what's so bad about enjoying a game?
Again, never say anything about people enjoying the game.
I'm not saying what they do is correct, but who's the one who's constantly making videos about them?
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that I should not make videos educating the consumers on what their purchase of a game means to the company, to the developers, and how it affects gaming as a whole? Even though that company doesn't have you in their best interest. Now, I know I've said this before, but I gotta make a separate video about it because you guys don't seem to hear it.
Then why are you increasing the conflict? People who get it, get it. People who don't get it, don't get it.
First of all, conflict and controversy brings awareness to a problem. It forces people to hear the problem and to acknowledge what is going on. Whether or not they accept it or not is up to them, but it still forces them to acknowledge it. And secondly, you're going to hear this several times because as time has gone on, you can see how the problems with the DLC and how the on-disc DLC has become a bigger issue. Let me give you an example. Look at Resident Evil 5. You have versus mode on the disc. Look at Lost Planet 2. They had taken out a piece of the game and put up for DLC, and they admitted that. And look at Marvel vs. Capcom 3. The netcode was terrible. It only had about 8 stages you could fight on. You had 36 characters. A couple of them were locked on the disc as DLC. There was no spectator mode online, so you just had to sit there and wait for people to get done fighting. And then it all came with a $60 price tag. Only for 7 to 8 to 9 months later, you have a new Marvel vs. Capcom 3 coming out, and this one has more characters, this one has more features, this one has everything that the first one was lacking. And you know what you had to do if you wanted to get those characters, those stages, those features? You had to buy the new one. So within a year, less than a year, they made your copy of a game obsolete, and you had to pay a $40 price tag. And if you want to trade in your original copy of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, as soon as the new one was announced, GameStop reduced the trade-in value to $8. But because people keep supporting these bad business practices, these problems are getting worse. Now you got Street Fighter times Tekken. You have 12 characters locked on the disc. Locked on every copy on the PS3 and Xbox 360, and later on it's going to come with a $20 price tag. They are charging you for something that you already have in your possession, and they're going to charge you for that on-disc DLC that's on every copy of Resident Evil Raccoon City. Now, do you see how these problems have progressed and have gotten bigger? That is because these people are supporting these companies, which is the point I'm trying to make and prevent from getting worse. But then we have people like you who are telling me that telling these people to not let this sort of thing happen and progress is wrong.
But when you make videos about it, you give publicity to the exact companies you hate. You increase the controversy and basically advertise.
So according to you, if there's a report about Tyson chicken products having cases of salmonella in it, that's going to make people go out and buy Tyson chicken products? If a car company gets reported to making one of the most unsafe vehicles that could be out on the roads, are people going to flock to the dealership and get that specific car? No, they're not. You have to realize that not all publicity is good publicity, and I really don't understand why you do not understand this point. Your ignorance completely baffles me, man.
Oh, and I'm skipping some of the contents because he speaks more about fanboyism and false logic he presents, which for the most part is correct, but if I end up countering some of his points, I would end up repeating myself.
Like I stated earlier, a lot of my points and my logic is covered throughout the entire video, but this guy can't even give me the courtesy of commentating on the entire video. It is only a 5-minute video, people. But I think part of the reason why he skipped that part is because I gave one of the examples of how these people that support these companies aren't real gamers. Because I quote that some of these supposed gamers have said that just because you bought that disc doesn't mean you own everything on it. Indicating that these people are just fine with the companies locking away content on their disc and selling it to them later. That is not something a real gamer would support. I'm going to make this very clear. You are the cancer that is killing gaming. Yes, you are. And you know what's more? You're not going to change. We've been telling you this stuff for a long time now.
So you know that people aren't going to listen to you, yet you're making a video that people can randomly click, which will get people's interest on the companies you hate.
Again, not all publicity is good publicity.
Gamers do not constantly bitch at games.
If we don't tell the developers what's wrong with it, how are they going to make a better game?
Because from my experience, extremely controversial games get the highest sales, especially when real gamers constantly bitch about these games.
Those are very poor examples. First of all, Sonic releases across 4 different platforms: PS2, PS3, 360, and Wii. So of course it's going to have a high number of sales. And then, of course, it's going to be selling because it's a Sonic game. You know how the Sonic fags are? They're going to buy it just because it has Sonic on the cover. And then you show Metroid Other M. That game just got to 1 million sales this past January. So how is that one of the highest selling games? A better example would be Call of Duty. That's a controversial game that's always getting criticized, but it doesn't sell a lot just because people are complaining about it and making videos about it. It sells a lot because it's the equivalent of Justin Bieber in gaming.
See where I'm getting at here?
If you guys are willing to accept this from these companies at this degree, where it's obvious that they're putting stuff on the disc and locking
It's getting darker, so incredibly obnoxious. How did you think this was a good idea?
Why are you paying attention to my surroundings? Why are you worried about seeing me? Why aren't you listening to what I'm saying, which was the point of the video? If you were listening properly, you would have made so many illogical statements and horrible points and terrible arguments. Features because they want to save it for later, to make it pay for it later. When they're cutting content from your game and releasing it online as DLC to sell it to you later.
And Street Fighter 2 had programming that was already in the game that they decided to release in a later version. So you can buy the game at full price again for content that should have already been in the game. This shit's been going on since gaming began.
Okay, well, what's your point? Any point that you can derive from that would be a really bad one. Are you trying to say that we shouldn't say anything because it's been happening for so long? Are you saying that it's been happening for so long, so why should we start saying stuff now? Are you saying that it's been happening for so long that we should just be used to it? What are you trying to say with that statement? I would really like to know, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to predict that it's going to be a bad one. And all sorts of other terrible things that they're doing when it's this obvious. And you guys haven't learned by
Well, it took you a while to learn. Companies have been doing this for years.
Well, that's a very illogical statement. How can you possibly postulate that I just learned about this problem just because I decided to talk about it now? Maybe I'm speaking about it now because it's a growing problem in the gaming industry. Help stupid. And you guys are in fact stupid. And that's what those companies are counting on. They're counting on you stupid idiots buying their incomplete games and buying back content that was cut from your game later on for $14.99, $9.99, $19.99, whatever price they want to put it at.
I gotta ask, what's the point of repeating what you said in an angry tone? Once again, this does not help your points. It provokes anger and it makes the situation worse.
Maybe I have to repeat myself and reinforce my points because people like you obviously don't hear what I'm saying, as you have clearly proven in your commentary.
Call of Duty is better than Halo. No, it isn't. Call of Duty is better than Halo. No, it isn't. Call of Duty is better than Halo. No, it isn't.
Well, that was irrelevant. All you did was prove that you do not know how to make a skit that's relative to the topic at hand. That was merely two opposing opinions over two different games, and that doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. What's happening here is that I'm giving the facts, I'm giving the truth, and my statements and my facts are backed up by the actual companies, the things that they do, and over time how things have gotten worse because of how people support these companies. You fail to realize this.
They're counting on it. And you idiots aren't letting them down. Who are we? We are the gamers. I shouldn't have to keep reminding you idiots that who pays the bills at the companies? That's us. We built those companies with our money.
Stop focusing on what you see. All you're doing is reinforcing my point that you are not listening.
Generation after generation, it's been our money. Without our money, bugs. Without our money, they're nothing. Without our money, they go into debt. That means they have to get loans, and that means they have to get investors, and that means that they'll have to start acting serious. They have to start actually putting out a game that will make every gamer out there want to buy their game.
And who's the one advertising by making a controversial title, which is probably going to get more sales now? You're giving them more money by getting them more customers for all their products than I was buying this game and not making videos about it on a public website.
Yep, because after hearing reports of a restaurant that's had so many cases of food poisoning, people want to flock to it, right?
Isn't that what they should be doing anyway? That's what a lot of companies are doing right now. It's not every company that's cheating gamers. Just a select few.
Let's see here. Pokemon repackages games for standard cartridge price, quite typically 3 times.
So Pokemon are responsible for repackaging the games? I didn't know Pokemon were real. I didn't know they were working for Nintendo. And what do you mean by repackage? Do you mean how there's 3 versions in one generation? Like blue, red, and yellow? Or gold and silver and crystal? Or do you mean how they're remade, like how blue and red became fire red and leaf green, and how gold and silver became heart gold and soul silver? You're going to have to elaborate on that point.
Metroid has a trilogy, which had 3 separate games with almost the same programming, not to mention they remade a trilogy that fitted on one Wii disc, so in reality, they could have just said no to the 3rd one and give us an entire collection on one disc.
Man, your ignorance is really blossoming in this commentary. First of all, how is releasing a trilogy cheating gamers? Metroid Prime 3 Corruption came out in 2007. August 2007, I believe. Metroid Prime Trilogy came out around 2 years later than the 3rd title. And plus, at the time, you guys know how Nintendo games still stay the full price a long period of time. Metroid Prime 3 was still $49.99, and you can get this trilogy, this limited time trilogy, for the same price. How is that cheating gamers? And how is taking 2 GameCube games, fixing the engines, making them run better, adding light bloom, tweaking difficulty, and adding the Wii motion controls in 2 games that had no motion controls, the same code?
Many companies cheat out their customers in some way or another to make them an extra penny. DLC is just a different way of doing it.
Okay, the examples you gave did not support your statement at all, and even if they did, they would not have countered anything I've said previously. And why can't you people understand that there are companies out there that merely make a good game, release it, and they get the money they deserve?
But the select few developers and publishers that are cheating gamers are getting just as much and even more support than those who are doing the right thing. And that's what really sickens me about gaming. That's all I have to say for now. But you bio drones and capcock suckers,
Hey, look, I can pull puns out of my ass. Am I funny?
Does that look like a black man that's trying to be funny?
you are the cancer. And I can't wait until each and every one of you is cut away from the body that is gaming, so gaming can go back to being the healthy body that it was. It starts with the cancer, and that's you. Have a good night.
Alright, end of the video. Final thoughts? This is the problem I have with all these videos. They always seem to be cut and paste from other DLC rants, and they give absolutely no advice on how to get rid of the problem.
Ding dong! Final fail thoughts number 1. I did tell you how to get rid of the problem. I indicated that those that are causing the problem are those that are supporting the companies and putting money in the companies' pockets. Therefore, how do you fix the problem? You take the money from the companies. How do you do that? You stop giving them money. How do you do that? You stop buying their games.
Some of them mention a boycott, but in order to boycott something, you need to stop talking about it altogether.
Ding dong! Final fail thoughts number 2. How do you let people know why they have to boycott something if there's a problem going on if you don't talk about it? That makes no sense.
Because constantly making videos only advertises the product.
Ding dong! Final fail thoughts number 3. Come get some salmonella.
Look up the term boycott before you decide to pirate or rant about something.
Final fail thoughts number 4. Ding dong! Boycott. To combine in abstaining from or preventing dealings with. Okay, that's exactly what we're trying to do, and that's exactly what I've been suggesting. Stop giving these companies your money by not dealing with them. I really don't know why you brought it up, because the definition has nothing to do with your point.
Because if people like BBC didn't exist to start off the controversy, then we wouldn't have people like Random DCE to promote apathy for DLC, which gets more people to follow that philosophy.
Whoa, wait a minute. Final fail thoughts number 5. Are you saying that it's my fault that Random DCE took the opposition and made videos supporting the companies and supporting DLC and therefore made himself look like a fool? That's just hilarious. Look, man, it's not my fault that you, Random DCE, and plenty of other people such as yourselves have made videos about me opposing the things that I've said simply for the fact that you don't like the way I act and that you don't like the way I speak, which is evident in your own commentary because you have shown that you do not listen and you have not heard a single thing that I said, because if you did, you wouldn't have said the things that you have in your commentary. Now that I think about it, I've actually destroyed a lot of you guys in that community. Just look at the track record, guys. I destroyed Heavy Base X, Helsing 920, Random DCE, Youngblood. I got Gliga 13 vids, Vesper Snake, the Mystery Oven, and now we got this guy, TheLeetCasualGamer. But I will admit, out of all of you, Heavy Base X and Youngblood got some balls because they were the only ones that were willing to discuss things with me vocally. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. Let's get back to your points. You said that I made Random DCE show apathy. Apathy is merely the absence of emotion and passion and excitement, which technically is true because a lot of you commentators and ranters are very boring, very passionless, and emotionless, and show no dynamics in your videos. But what you probably were meaning was maybe empathy?
I'm not saying that what people who defend themselves are doing is right, but I am saying that people like BBC are wrong. With that, TLCG out.
Yep, I'm wrong, and you clearly proved that in your commentary, didn't you? No, you didn't. Especially when you make a newer video retracting the things you have said in your commentary and stating how flawed your own commentary was. Therefore, you are forced to admit that you are very ignorant. You also show that everyone that left positive comments on your commentary and agreed with the things that you've said are wrong as well. It is the gift that keeps on giving. And before we start this next video, we're going to wipe those points from the corner because those never got proven and never amount to anything. So let's get ready for the next video, Reggie.
Guys, it's Leedy here, and I'm just making a quick response to what's been going on with this whole DLC topic. I'm going to start off by saying that I was at a fault, and so was everyone else that was involved in that matter.
Admitting guilt and admitting guilt of thy friends. This is a good sign.
So I want to go over 3 things in this video. It's going to be like a sandwich.
Well, if that's a sign of things to come, I think I'm going to have to speed his video up a bit. Nothing will be edited out of his video. It's only going to be sped up because a lot of it, he just babbles on and he has a lot of long pauses and he speaks pretty slowly as well.
We're going to have 3 different topics I want to go over. I'll be putting times in the description so you have the option to skip each section, and we are going to organize it like this. First, I'll be clearing up a few things about my previous commentary.
A few things? The entire commentary was terrible. The only way to really clear it up is to delete it off your channel.
I also want to go over on why some people don't like the BBC.
That is one of the most irrelevant topics you could possibly cover because first of all, no one cares why you don't like me. And second of all, everyone knows what sort of people don't like me. And it's a very common trend. They're either fans of someone that I've owned, they're either part of a fan base that I've bashed, and they're people that get upset that I expose the truth about things that they've used, things that they've said, things that they've done, and they feel guilty and therefore take their anger out on me.
I'm not saying stop liking him. I'm just trying to get people to understand. Then lastly, I want to go over what I view as the most important, which is the growing concern I have with the definition of debate over the internet.
If it's a growing concern for you, then why didn't you just contact me on Skype like I told you could and discuss your commentary? That was your opportunity to show people and display to people what your definition of a debate is and how it should be gone about on the internet.
One topic shouldn't need to be backed up with what I said in another topic without getting confused, so feel free to skip. So with that, let's begin. So let's first clear up the problem with my video. Now, I can notice major fuck-ups with that video, but at the same time, it's not all my fault.
How are we going to blame others for your actions and your flaws, your illogical statements that you made in your own commentary? Blaming others for your actions is very immature.
This is just to clear up some misunderstandings, what I was talking about. If you didn't quite understand where I was getting at, just listen to this part of my video and it will make a lot more sense. Now, the main purpose of that video was because the video I was questioning was addressing fanboys as opposed to corporations that BBC hates, which I just viewed as pretty stupid.
Which you failed to prove.
The main argument I was just simply trying to say was that these videos do provoke people like Random DCE to make comments and videos that send a message to these corporations that show that their strategy is working.
So basically what you're saying is that your argument was that Random DCE was influenced by a black man on the internet to make videos that support the developers and the companies that do bad business practices and cheat the gamers and therefore making himself look like a fool? And how does that show that the strategy is working? The one thing that I keep telling you people that shows that their strategy is working is that people still buy their games. That is the point. And even now, in your own video, in your response to your own commentary and to Youngblood, you still don't realize this.
He even admitted that the fanboys wouldn't listen to him, yet he still makes a video about them.
Yes, because people like yourself have proven to me that you even do commentaries on a video when you actively listen to what the person is saying, yet you still don't hear it, and you still miss the points.
To me, that's like a video regarding trolls and haters, which just about every troll/hater rant is seriously fucked up and pointless. That's the gist of what I was pointing out in that video, and what I was trying to get across, that he was just being foolish in his video, and I did try to back it up with logical reasoning.
The way I acted was irrelevant. What was important was the message that I had to portray. It's people's words and people's thoughts, people's points, and people's arguments that dictate whether I think they're foolish or not, which is why I think you and Random DCE and plenty of other people are pretty darn foolish.
And as I said, people who get it, get it. People who don't get it, don't get it. So making more videos about it will probably get more people involved who weren't involved, which if they go to your side, it wouldn't do anything. And if they went to the other people's sides, it will get these corporations more customers.
So according to you, My side, the side that does not give these developers money, does not give these publishers money for bad business practices and for cheating the gamers, does nothing, yet people join up with a company just by hearing bad publicity of it. Failed logic.
And from personal experience, controversial games tend to get distorted sales. This can be due to getting more people involved than it should, and due to the fact that people just get the game for the sake of bashing on it to become the cool kid, which the sad reality of that is that someone bought a product knowing it was bad.
Well, since you're using personal experience, I can use a little personal experience of my own. According to my own experience, people who hear about really bad games will buy a bad game used because they don't want to pay full price. And when you buy a game used, you don't put money in the developers or the publishers' pockets. And that's just fine with me.
I also wanted to say the fact how most of these people would rage in order to get people riled up without offering any sort of advice.
Who exactly are these people that you're referring to? Because in your commentary and even in this video, you have not given us a single example of who you're referring to. As far as I know, you're only talking about DLC ranters, which was in the title of your commentary, but you have yet to give an example of a DLC ranter that is also a cancer that's killing gaming and how they're actually doing harm. And if people are ranting about DLC, obviously the solution that they shouldn't even have to mention is to not buy the DLC and not support the company that created it.
Which I did mention that some of them advise them to boycott, but most of them don't know what a boycott is.
Most of them don't know what a boycott is. Wow. He's going to elaborate on this later, guys, and oh, what I got in store for that.
Which we'll get to shortly. Now, there were two major flaws in my commentary, so I'll address them both. The first one was due to bad comparison. Now, the games I mentioned really didn't have anything to do with the situation now.
So why did you bring them up in the first place? It didn't dawn on you by the time you actually went to Google and got the pictures and put them in your video?
Also, the point I was trying to get at there was that if you went after one company, you have to go after all of them due to the fact that a lot of companies try to make extra money in their pockets.
How are you going to try to make a point saying that there's all these other companies we should be going after when you have not given a single example of another company we should go after?
It wasn't necessarily the best point nor comparison. Why it was bad was due to the fact of personal standpoint.
Too bad we're not arguing about personal standpoints. We're talking about facts here, man.
Somebody pointed out to me that it's optional to buy separate games I mentioned, and if you want to keep up to date with games like Marvel vs. Capcom 3, you would have to keep up mainstream, so therefore DLC is less optional than I thought.
Don't forget that DLC also stands for dislocked content as well. That's also an atrocity.
But personally, I don't like keeping up to date with the gaming community, and I totally see that point. However, my standpoint still is that DLC is optional and not so much of a big deal due to the fact how I like to play games.
Too bad that your personal perspective, your standpoint, what you think, your opinions is irrelevant in a discussion containing facts.
The other major screw up I did have was at the end of the video, I did mention boycotting.
Prepare thyself for this one.
Now, it occurred to me that people were interpreting that I was actually recommending it, but I was just stating that people who rant about DLC don't know what it means.
Yeah, guys, I had to turn the camera on for this one because this 5th grade history book is going to prove his point wrong. This guy says that you, the DLC ranters, or whoever else he's referring to, he says that you don't know what boycotting is. And right after you watch this little segment of my video, he's going to tell you his own skewed, made up, and falsified definition for boycotting just because it fits with his point. And that is horrendous. Firstly, anyone with a 5th grade education will know what boycotting is. We're in the glossary, and right here it says boycott. I don't know if you can see it or not. To refuse to do business or have contact with a person, group, company, country, or product. Now just listen to what he says later on what a boycott is. And just see how ridiculous he makes himself look. And the fact that he says you guys don't know what this means is one of the greatest insults I could ever imagine. Because he's saying you guys don't have a 5th grade education. He says you guys don't know about how the black people boycotted the bus systems and so many other places because of racial problems. He says that you guys don't know about women boycotting certain companies and certain employers because they couldn't get equal rights. He says that you guys don't know that Americans boycotted British products because the British were oppressing the colonists. Yeah. You are ridiculously idiotic and ignorant, the elite casual gamer.
How you guys interpreted it that way, I honestly don't know. But I was at the same time at a fault here. I don't know how this left my scripts, but the internet doesn't work the same way for a boycott. In order to rise up, you need to rally in front of a building, not spend all day agreeing with some guy over the internet.
Clearly, he never took social studies or never got past the 4th grade, because if he actually did, he would know for a fact that what he is describing is called protesting. Protesting is when you are voicing your disapproval of a company, of a person, or a group, or whatever whom it may apply to. People protest so that the message gets out there of why people should boycott a certain person, company, or group. And that's exactly what we do on the internet. We protest. We tell people why these companies are bad and why they shouldn't support them. But you don't seem to understand this. I guess your school system has failed you, because any kid that's seen that episode of SpongeBob, Squid on Strike, would know exactly what we're talking about.
How you express yourself for a boycott online is actually rather simple. You just state to yourself that you're not going to buy your product for these reasons, and then you ignore the urge to try to give him any sort of publicity.
A boycott doesn't work with one person simply telling himself that he's not going to support the company. It takes many people, thousands of people, tens of thousands of people that are on the same page. You got to get organized, and you got to spread the word and spread awareness. You have to protest. Oh, and also, more fail logic, according to you, being outside that building, like you said, rallying outside of it, is also publicity, which, according to you, doesn't help either.
Due to the fact of how careful we have to be in cyberspace now because of how publicly opened it is.
Which makes it the perfect platform to spread a message, organize, and protest.
I don't think yelling and provoking rage really helps. I'm not suggesting it. In fact, I think it's the last thing to do, but I am telling you how it should work over cyberspace.
Which you failed to do.
Now, let's address my personal problem with BBC.
Yes, these people have personal problems about a black guy on the internet.
To put it simply, it's not that he has a different viewpoint, it's the fact of his overall attitude.
Here's the thing about you clowns. You guys are so caught up in the way I look, what's going on around me, the way I act, that you all fail to hear what I'm saying, which is what you did in your commentary, and that's what everyone else did in their commentaries. So maybe you should stop being so superficial and actually listen to what the person is saying.
He portrays himself as some sort of god and voice of gaming, and anyone who doesn't do what he does is immediately the devil.
I love how the way he says it, he states it as a fact, and he realized that, went back into his video, put that text in there, and then says that I'm not stating it as a fact. How about you not put the text in there? How about you go back and re-record your audio and state it as your own opinion, which we already know it is. And for the record, people, it does not matter what he thinks about me, so please don't talk to him about it. That's his own opinion, and it does not matter. BBC does not care what people think about him on the internet. I am merely myself. I don't have to defend my own actions. I do what I do simply because I want to, and it causes entertainment for not just me, but for everybody else. But all in all, it's the message that's important. So it doesn't matter if people portray me as or view me as a Master Chief or God or the devil or Ben Stiller or a Whooper or Dave Chappelle or even Big Cloud here mobilizing like a Zero Jaeger. It does not matter. It's the message that's important.
Which I personally can't agree with at all. I think gamers have the right to make their own decisions, how to spend their own money, how to play their own games. You shouldn't need anyone to tell you what to think.
See, this is the problem with you commentators. You guys think too much. You don't know enough. Don't think about it. Know about it. What people think is irrelevant. It's what people know that's what's important. And what you guys need to realize is that these people can think all day and night, because in the end, it doesn't change any of the facts.
Also, I can't leave alone how he handles debate. In all his conversations, it's basically, I owned you, goodbye.
Oh really? Cause that's not how it was with Shipshore, Helsing 920, Heavy Base X, 3 kilobytes, Review Tech USA, Angelo, at GameStop Manager, and Life in a Tent, and all the other people I've debated.
Which is not a debate at all, which we'll get to later. Now, it's not just BBC, it's his fans. If there's anything my video proved, is that his fan base sucks, and which I can't blame BBC.
Every fan base has its sour lemons, but I at least give my fans a reason to support me. And it's funny that you would talk about fans, because who was the one that made a point that they were upset that the BLACKbusterCritic protested against DLC on the internet, and therefore I forced Random DCE to make a video opposing that, and he made himself look like a fool? Yeah, that person was you.
They just all of a sudden gave me dislike,
So now they can't have an opinion to dislike your video?
and just brought up the same exact arguments as BBC,
Which have got to be solid and factual arguments.
which is pointless even if the points were strong.
Even if they're strong points, they're pointless. Right. I'm getting the impression that you got a worse attitude than me.
Which most of them really weren't, and they were typically to try to look cool and somehow think I'm going to get off of YouTube because of it. Not saying everyone who commented on my video criticizing, but there was a lot. I also really don't like how he got people riled up, but doesn't offer any advice. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure he got some people persuaded to stop buying games.
If I got people persuaded to not buy games, then how can you say I didn't offer any advice on a solution?
But at the same time, I don't like the fact of how he didn't extend at all from that point. But that's just me. I just can't really see why BBC can't just give like options of, you know what, buy this game used if you really need to get it.
Obviously, by telling people to not put money in those companies' pockets means that it's a-okay to get the game by any other means as long as they don't get money.
Hey, guys, let's go to this certain website and post blogs about how much this game sucks. I mean,
But according to your logic, all that does is advertise the company and give them more publicity and making people interested in the company, and therefore giving those games that were protesting more sales, right?
why can't he just give advice like that? I mean, I would respect him a lot more if he did that. But at where things stand now, I just can't really give him any of my respect.
Who needs the respect of a commentator who's very ignorant, who doesn't listen to the person that they're commentating on, who knows nothing about what the person is talking about in the video, yet still tries to make points about it, and then he contradicts himself in his own commentary, and he's also a hypocrite?
Now for the most important part, debate. It's my growing concern about the internet community in general due to the fact that they don't know what a debate is. Now let me just make this clear. Nobody quote-unquote owns anybody.
Yep.
That in itself just makes you look childish. A debate goes from two different viewpoints on each other where they discuss and try to argue with one another. I actually have my own viewpoints on how to combat DLC over the internet, which is to mainly spread it around as much as you can and expand it beyond YouTube.
Again, all that does is advertise the companies, which means that they're gonna get more sales.
That's my personal viewpoint of the best way to handle the situation, and I still stand that people like BBC only promote the product.
Illogical, hypocritical, and contradictory.
Now, this is basically like absolute power versus limited power. They both want a stable government, but they have different ways on how to have it. It's fine if you think people like BBC are inspiring and it's the solution to what we want. But I have yet to hear logical claims backing it up, and that's what I want to see.
I think by this point you guys would know exactly what I would say to that.
I keep asking people, why does ranting in front of a camera addressing fans of certain products send a message to the companies?
Wow, it's just so simple. I just can't believe this guy doesn't get it. If you address the fans learn. When the fans learn, the companies can't cheat them anymore. And when the companies can't cheat them anymore, that means they have to change their practices. That's how it goes from the consumers up to the companies. That sends a message.
They just respond.
It's going to be like a sandwich. It's going to be like a sandwich.
Because he did. Look, I want you to go against me. I'm interested in hearing backed up logical evidence on why we need people like BBC to tell us what to do.
It's not about telling people what to do. It's about educating people, man.
It has me learn about a viewpoint. Now, there was one comment I mentioned earlier about the bad comparison I made about Pokemon games and such. There was one person in the comments section who did mention and explained his viewpoint while backing it up. And I have to say, thank you. somebody who actually has a brain cell in this world, and I wound up learning another perspective. But in the end, nobody, quote unquote, owns anybody.
Yep.
Just stupid people who get butthurt let themselves get owned.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Smart people learn. But where I'm trying to get at is that a debate is not one person trying to get the last word and saying they're correct. It's a learning process, and that's what I want people to try to understand. And that's the end of the video. I'm not saying how you should spend your money, I'm not saying stop liking BBC, and I'm not trying to provoke him again. In fact, if that ends up happening, I'm not going to do anything about it. And I am not trying to point fingers at certain people because we are all at fault. But with that, I hope you enjoyed, and if you're still confused about the way I feel, just leave a friendly comment and we can actually have a discussion in a civilized manner. And I'm signing off.
Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this commentary on both of the Elite Casual Gamers videos. His initial one, that was a commentary on one of my videos, and his newer one where he retracted and tried to fix some of the flaws in his commentary. In this case, Elite Casual Gamer, yes, you did get owned pretty darn hard. And I just want you to take this video and learn from it, because even in my initial video, if you actually went back and listened to what I said, you would actually learn a lot of things. But if you just get past the bias, and if you just get past the damage I've dealt to a random DCE, you might discover that there's somebody out there who's being very informative and actually knows what he's talking about. So in the end, everyone, have a good day, night, afternoon, evening, midday, twilight, whatever time it is where you are. Have a good one. This is BBC 920, and I'll see you all in the near future.